All right, hey everyone, we're about to get started here. Welcome to our AI Tools for Analytics webinar. I'm excited to have you all here. We have an amazing guest with us. Before I introduce him, let's just briefly talk about why we're here. AI is getting better and better every single day. We all know that the field's changing pretty rapidly. It can be hard for us to keep up, even if you're actively seeking to build and maintain AI skills. It can still be really difficult to keep up. So I thought it'd be great for just the broader analytics community to have a discussion on what challenges are facing the tools that are coming up and what's been done to address those challenges and kind of where the field's heading. So before we get into that, just a quick plug for our community. If you like the event, please come join us at datagoats.org. We're building an amazing analytics community, and just to kind of help each other grow, network, collaborate. And this event's just one of many that we do. We regularly host AMAs. We've got a data viz contest running for about another week or so. And that actually has real prizes, so check that out. And yeah, so without further ado, I'm really excited to welcome Yoni Leitersdor from Solid. And take it away, Yoni.
Hello. Thank you very much, Zach. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. So kind of as Zach shared, over the next hour or so, I'm going to share what we've learned about the space and specifically around AI tools for analytics and the challenges that we're seeing and actually the opportunities in the future. So very excited to be sharing this with you and also looking forward to your questions and helping in any way that I can. So just a bit about me. My full name is Yoni Leitersdor. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company named Solid. I really love building things. Ever since I was a kid, I used to play with Legos and build all kinds of little constructions. But as I grew older, I built software products and built startups. Solid is actually my second startup. And I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy building things that people will use and will help people in their day-to-day. I love software, and as part of that, I love AI. I use AI for so many different things every single day, and to me, it's a real blessing with what's coming towards us. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. I live in California. I've got an amazing wife, 3 beautiful children, 2 dogs who sometimes interrupt my Zoom calls, and I'm a second-time founder, as I mentioned. Now, over the last 18 months since I started working on Solid, I basically spent my time speaking with people, whether it's leaders like chief data officers or chief data and analytics officers, VPs of data, directors, managers, and including analysts, junior analysts and senior analysts, because I really wanted to learn more about what people are thinking about, what are people running into, what are their challenges, how they're trying to solve them, and really how the whole concept of AI and analytics is taking shape. And so let's start with a quick definition here. So what is AI for analytics? First of all, AI for analytics is the ability to use natural language to access data. We've all seen these demos where you can ask a question like, what was the churn last month? Or what is the performance of supplier X? And beautifully, the AI goes and digs for the data and shows you a chart or an analysis. So first of all, it's the fact that you can use natural language. Secondly, it's accessible to business users. So you don't need to know SQL, you don't need to know Python, you don't need to code, you don't even need to know the structure of the tables in your Snowflake or Databricks warehouse. It's a user who is in the business in customer success or marketing or supply chain or whatever it may be, who really wants to access data to make better decisions. This is for them. It needs to be intuitive. It needs to be conversational. So just like we're all used to with ChatGPT, you go in, you type what you want, but also it helps you. So it can start with something and it can say, oh, here's some data I found and here's an analysis, and here are some follow-up questions, or it can help you in 3 different ways. Which one would you like? So the idea is for it to be conversational, not just a sort of a one-off type search kind of thing. And really it's a means to achieve true democratization of data. We've been talking about democratization of data for a couple of decades at this point. We've tried all kinds of things like self-serve technologies or self-service, data catalogs, data marts, data marketplaces, and all the other terms. And they've helped, but they didn't really unlock the potential here. And so AI for analytics is a way to do that. At least that's how we all envision it. When I shared this slide deck with Zach, one of the things he said was, why should you care Okay, great. AI for analytics, it's the future. Everybody's talking about it. Amazing. But why should you actually care? Why should somebody participating in this webinar care? So first of all, it's because AI is coming for all of our jobs, right? This is this is the guy from Mario panicking over here on the right. And everyone has been talking about that AI is coming for our job. That's the end of the world, etc. But obviously that's not exactly the case. But there is a lot of potential here. So let's kind of tone that down and focus on really why you should care. So first of all, there is going to be an end to this concept of can you just poll? You know how somebody hits you up on Slack or Teams, or maybe taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, can you just pull this report, or can you just pull this data for me? And I realize how annoying that is, because you're probably working on something else and they come with this request and they think it's a 5-minute request, and maybe it is a 5-minute request, but quite potentially it's a 12-hour request, because what they ask for is not in a single table, it's in multiple tables. And actually, the columns are 2 columns with the same name. You need to decide which one to use. So can you just pull is not as easy as it sounds, or is not as easy as the business user wants to think that it is. We do believe that with AI for analytics, the can you just pull is going to start going down, because what's going to happen is that business users are going to be able to pull more and more data on their own. Maybe not to the very deep analyses, but some of the basic data that they're using today and consuming your time and frustration with, AI will help you with that. Also, I'm today at a conference here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, called CDO IQ. And there are a lot of chief data officers, chief data and analytics officers here, and they all feel the pressure from their CEO, from their manager, from the organization to deliver on AI initiatives, many different AI initiatives. But a big one is around analytics, AI for analytics. They feel a very, very strong pressure to do so. And so they will look for ways to do that. And you're going to see those initiatives coming top down and influencing your day-to-day. Now, a lot of people talk about AI as a cost-cutting thing. And there is some, potentially, there is some impact of cost-cutting here involved in trying to roll out AI. But really, AI is an opportunity to do things much better, to open new opportunities for the business, to accelerate time to insights, to do things we could never do before. And what I've really come to a conclusion around is that for people in the data space, and especially analysts, junior or senior analysts, your opportunity here is actually to grow your subject matter expertise. So, if we fast forward a year or 2 years out, I believe that AI for analytics is going to replace our need to know SQL really well. So you're not going to be measured on how well you can write a query, or whether you put a comma at the end of the line or the beginning of the line. And, that's a religious conversation. I'm not going to go into that. But you're going to be measured on how well you know the business. For example, last week I spoke with somebody who works at the technical operations of a big airline, and he's a senior analyst there. And I asked him, what is going to be the impact of AI for analytics for you? And he said, well, in my background, in my career, I'm actually an aeronautics engineer. I'm not a data guy in my background. That's not what I studied. I became an analyst because I really enjoyed analyzing data. And so that background has really helped me in my current role. And what I see and what I foresee is that background, my understanding of planes and engines, is going to be the big thing for me going forward. AI is going to take all the basic coding stuff. So when you kind of think about this, we're going to go through how, AI and for analytics looks like today, and the challenges and so forth. I think there's a lot of opportunity for each and every one of us in this space. We just need to look at it, I think, from the right perspective. So, spoke with a ton of people. What are the 3 main solutions that we're seeing in the market today across the organizations we spoke with? So the first one is just straight up leveraging capabilities that are built into the platforms we already have. So an organization that is a Databricks customer will look at Genie. Snowflake customers will look at Cortex. BigQuery will look at Gemini. Microsoft Chops will look at their Copilot, and so forth. So a lot of organizations are looking at the AI that's already built into the platforms that they're using and trying to leverage that. Sometimes more successfully, sometimes less successfully. So, there's a hit and miss there, but that's the first thing that they look at. Second option, and there's the number of organizations that do this are much, much less. We're going to talk about it in a moment, but some organizations will actually build their own custom solutions. So somebody on the data platform side will, pick up a task or pick up a project and say, I'm going to build something myself, or this team is going to build themselves. They're going to use all kinds of technologies out there like N8N and Retool and others to try to build something internally. That's something that we've seen quite a bit, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. And then thirdly, we're seeing third-party solutions. So obviously, Solid is one of them, but there are also other companies like TextQL and Jetify, and actually a whole set of others that are trying to tackle this. And the idea here is that we bring in very specific expertise and knowledge around how to do AI for analytics across the entire stack. So if that first option up there is about, Databricks, and then separately Snowflake, and then separately Power BI, these startups are essentially looking bottom to top or top to bottom from the data warehouse upwards and trying to provide a solution. So these are the main three solutions that we're seeing. Now, I spoke with over 250 organizations, some of them really, really large, hundreds of thousands of employees, some of them a bit smaller, tens of thousands, some of them even smaller yet, thousands, and all the way down to hundreds. And I collected their feedback and what they've learned. And one of the things that they're saying about custom solutions is that getting from a demo to a production system is very, very, very hard. You'll see situations where somebody put something together, spent a day or two, or maybe a week, and got super excited and said, oh, wow, this is amazing. We can do something amazing here. It can understand our data. It can write SQL queries. Let's go. But then they try to make it production grade. They try to get it to the point where it can actually answer questions that users or business users are throwing at it. And what you find is that it's very, very hard to do. It's more than 1,000 times harder to build production systems versus demo systems in this space. To the point that we talked about a week. It can easily be 5 to 10 human years just to get your first use case in a reliable way delivered to business users. And so what this means is that less than 10% of the organizations we spoke with actually built something homegrown, custom solution that really worked well. And even within those confines, what they ended up doing is focusing on a very specific set of analytics questions. So about 100 to 150 most common questions that business users in a specific department ask. They focused on that, and that works really well. So after you put all that investment and you're really focusing in where you're taking this, you can actually get a really, really good result and high satisfaction. So if you're thinking about a custom solution, or the organization you're a part of is thinking about building a custom solution, it is possible. There are a bunch of learnings out there. Feel free to also ask questions here. I can share more of those, or even after. But it is doable within the specific requirements. I want to dig into three main learnings as we looked at how people are building these solutions, or even using off-the-shelf offerings from platforms, or even from startups. Three main learnings I'm going to dig into over the next few slides. The first one is business context. And we've probably heard this. You might have heard this on LinkedIn or other places, or in the conference that I'm at today. Business context is crucial. Business context is actually crucial for data in general. When you think about it, when you do your work as an analyst, you need to understand the business. If somebody sends you a question or request, you need to understand the context of that request. Where do they live in? What's their world like? Why are they asking this question? What are they trying to achieve? So just like a human analyst needs context to provide good results and to provide a good report or good analysis back to the business stakeholder, AI needs it too. So context is crucial. We're going to dive into that in a moment as well. Second thing is leverage existing technologies. So I did say that a demo is something you can put together very fast, and a production system takes a really, really long time. If I zoom into that, I will say that if you are trying to build it from scratch with no existing technologies, nothing off the shelf, just writing code on your own, it's going to take you way longer to get to anything that is usable. If you instead opt to start using things that are off the shelf or available, like the Genie from Databricks or Copilot from Microsoft, or even infrastructure as a service capabilities within Azure, what they call the Azure AI. If you start from something that already exists, then it's going to shorten your path to getting something off the ground. It might not be the ideal solution. It might not be the best solution for you, but it will get you off the ground. I can show you, for example, when we started building Solid, we started working with off-the-shelf technologies within the Azure space. And while they're not the most flexible in the world, they really helped us get off the ground and really helped us deliver that first platform. And then over time, we sort of outgrew that and expanded, and that's fine. But you want to start with existing technologies, save you a lot of time to get something going. Thirdly, accuracy is key. People lose trust in these types of systems very quickly. So if a business user sits down, types something into the chat, and gets the wrong answer once or maybe twice, they will not come back. That's it. They're burnt. They're not going to come back. So you got to work on accuracy, and we're going to talk a bit about that, but also think about how do you stagger the rollout. Don't build something and immediately give it to some random user in the organization. Start with a very small group of people. They're your beta testers, not tasters. They could taste it, but they should test it. They're your beta testers, and they're the ones who are going to try it. They're going to give you feedback. They're going to have more patience to accuracy issues and problems and bugs. You need those people. Yesterday, I was sitting for lunch with someone, and he said, we have an experiment right now. We're building something like this. And he said, our beta testing group is 25 people out of a potential user group of about 5,000 people, right? So percentage-wise, it makes sense. 25 people, they test, they give feedback, they help us build. That's a good thing, right? So accuracy is key. And again, we're going to dive a bit more into that in a moment, but also, staggering that rollout and working with a small group initially and then expanding over time. So let's talk about business context. This is a little test I did with ChatGPT. I asked it, what is FSU? Now, the reason I asked it, what is FSU, is because this is actually an acronym that one of our customers uses internally. And FSU, in their case, is not Florida State University. AI guessed Florida State University because, I didn't give it any more information. All I did was ask, what is FSU? And that happens a lot in these platforms. If you don't give context, they don't know what to do with the question that the user provided or with the data that they're seeing. And so context is crucial, as you know. So in order to deal with things like this, the first thing you want to do is build a glossary. So think about all the terms that are used in your company, in your organization, and build out a glossary. It could be simple. It could be like an Excel file or a Google Sheet. But basically list out the terms that are used commonly within your company. They could be global terms, like things like ARR or patient or passenger. But they could also be internal acronyms like FSU and ATF. And you want to list all of them out together with what they exactly mean. There are some pretty good AI technologies, by the way, for doing that automatically. So you could take a whole bunch of content, unstructured content, documents, etc., load them into something like ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, I need you to create a glossary out of this, find all the terms and help me create a glossary. It can help you. But the first step is build that glossary, because without it, AI will not understand what people are saying to it or what people are asking it and what the data means. Okay. So first of all, that. Second of all, domain knowledge. Okay. So try to document as much as you can aspects of your business, your domain, your field. So let's say you're a company in the retail space. So documents about what does the company sell? Where does it compete? Let's say for a supermarket chain. So what are the different brands of the supermarket, like at the supermarket level? Where, the geographies, really any information that you can collect about your domain, your market, your company, pull that in. Obviously, there is a challenge. You want to make sure that you're curating that you're providing high quality context, because otherwise the AI is going to go all over the place. But that is an anchor for the AI. The AI uses that to understand, again, everything that it's seeing. So the glossary, then the domain knowledge, and anything else you can feed it. AI is really good at collecting all that. Okay, so that's sort of the context at the higher level. The other part of context here is around the assets themselves. So document every single table, every single column, every single BI report and dashboard. Collect verified queries. So collect queries that are good and document them as well, because all of these things will help the AI understand how to translate business questions into SQL code. So, for example, let's say somebody asks, I want to analyze the performance of a specific supplier last month. In order for the AI to understand how to even turn that into SQL and run it, it needs to understand the assets, the data assets. So by giving it really, really deep and strong documentation on all of these assets, it will be able to do that. And remember, don't forget collecting verified SQL queries, good SQL queries, because if you do that and you can feed that into the engine, it's much more likely to come out with good SQL queries when you ask it for questions. So all of these things here that I put under business context, they're all here in order to ground the AI, to help the AI understand your world, your terminology, your data, your tables, and for it to be able to actually make sense of that and drive a result that you want. So if you remember,
Hey, Yoni,
yes, go ahead.
you might get into this, but I actually had a question come through. When you talk about like the domain knowledge or kind of this knowledge layer from like a technical standpoint, how do you integrate that into an AI solution once you have some of those details collected?
Great question. So it depends on the platform that you're using, but a lot of the platforms will allow you to feed it some kind of base level information or memory. So in this screenshot, I have ChatGPT. At a very simple sense, you can feed knowledge into ChatGPT and commit it into memory. So if you're using it just for yourself, you can load it in and say, okay, this is the memory that I want you to have, and build on top of it. That's if you want to use it yourself. If you want to build something that others can use, you can do what's called custom GPT in the case of ChatGPT. The custom GPTs allow you to upload content as the base memory of that custom GPT. If I remember correctly, I think the limit is to maybe 20 files, but you can get a lot in 20 files. So again, if you're using something like ChatGPT, go to the custom GPT, look at that, load this into the custom GPT settings, and then it will be able to base off of that. So that's in the case of ChatGPT. There are similar solutions with all of the other main players like Anthropic and the others. And then also, if you're looking at if your organization maybe has like an internal platform that it uses, maybe something like Abacus, they do have also their own mechanism. So maybe reach out to the support team for that system, but they generally do have the ability to load that in there. It's a great question.
I actually have another question from Chris. How prone is AI to forgetting any of the customization you've entered?
Platform dependent. So in the case of Gemini, for example, I noticed it tends to forget more of my customizations. ChatGPT tends to remember them better. You can kind of tune it better by improving the prompts you give it, and then in some systems you're able to actually configure sort of a base prompt. Like for example, people who use Cursor for code development notice that there's a preferences section there, and you can actually configure your own base prompt, and it will always be in there. So in order to get around those challenges of it forgetting things, look for those features in that platform. And if the platform doesn't suit you, there are many, many others you can pick from.
Awesome. Thanks. That's all the questions I see for now. I think we can move on.
Great. Cool. Okay. So second thing in the deep dive, leverage existing stack. Don't reinvent. So we just talked about it, right? ChatGPT, Gemini. I mentioned Databricks Genie before. Again, don't reinvent. Don't go and write your own Python code. Don't go and say, oh, I'm going to cobble this, little thing together from some scripts, etc. Things look easy initially. And then as you get deeper and deeper and deeper, you just see how hard they are if you are to go and build it yourself. So really just to get your feet wet, get your hands dirty, use existing platforms. So if your company sanctioned ChatGPT, use that. If they sanctioned Copilot, use that. If they sanctioned some other platform or LLM, just use that. Just start from there. If you're in the cloud data warehouse space, get approval to use Genie with Databricks or Cortex with Snowflake or Gemini with BigQuery or whatever is the platform that you guys use in your organization, and start from there. Just keep it simple, play around with it, see what you're getting based on everything else that we've shared here, what we've discussed over the last few minutes. One thing that I do really want to mention here is that people keep talking about the death of BI. BI, it's the end of BI as we know it. BI is not going to happen. It's a death of BI. 5 years from now, nobody's going to use BI. I think people are sort of exaggerating with that. BI has a place, especially when you want to have dashboards and track KPIs across the organization. Maybe BI is not great for analyses and research, but it is pretty good for KPIs. What it also is pretty good is to augment some of the questions that people ask. So if we go back to that supplier example that I keep giving, usually what will happen is you'll look at the dashboard, you'll see the performance of all your suppliers, and you'll see that a couple of them look a bit off. And then you're going to go into like an AI for analytics solution and say something like, let me dig into one of those. So one of these suppliers, I think, have a problem. Give me the historical performance of supplier X, right? So, but you started in the BI. And so I don't think BI is going anywhere. There's still going to be dashboards. They're going to be sent every Monday or every day at 8 a.m., whatever is the case. They're going to be the starting point in many cases. People will see that. They'll say, oh, this is interesting. I want to dig into that. Then they're going to go into that AI for analytics solution. So it doesn't need to be, either this or that. It doesn't need to be mutually exclusive. BI has its place. AI for analytics has its place. Don't throw the BI out the door.
Real quick on that point, Yoni, Chris is asking, is there a resource to see function reviews from like various services and platforms to see which one might be the best fit for their organization?
Good question. I would tell you to ask the AI. It would be interesting if you went. So let's say in your organization you had, Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini available. I would build a set of requirements with the help of AI, of course, but I would build a set of requirements and then I would send it to each of them and say, please do a comparison for me between the different tools. I wonder how good that would work. Haven't tried that. It'll be interesting. Chris, give it a try and maybe share afterwards how well that works for you. But that's a way to do it. Another way to do it is to just try, access them and see what they can do and go through their trainings or certs if they have any and give those a try. Honestly, they each have different capabilities. They look similar, but they have different capabilities. So they're worth digging into, even just for your own knowledge. I would say you can ask people about their experience, but I got to say, it's every organization and every person has a different experience. For example, at Solid, there's somebody in our group. She hates Gemini. She only likes ChatGPT. Whereas I love Gemini. It's great for what I need. So, and we can debate why she likes it and why you can go. It's a bit of a religious debate. But it's, a lot of it is just how she feels with it. So just give them a try. The different platforms that are available, try the same thing in each of them and see how you feel. That's, I guess, my recommendation.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Yoni.
Okay. Accuracy. So we did talk about how accuracy or lack of accuracy could kill your project, right? If a business user tries once or twice and gets the wrong answer, they're gone. So how do you deal with that? First of all, we did talk about the beta user group, but you need to create an evaluation mechanism. There's something now called evals in this world of AI. And evals is sort of short for an evaluation mechanism. But basically, it's a way to evaluate the platform, the tool, the interface that you've built, where evaluation essentially means you build a series of prompts that you think business users may ask or may input, you run them through it, you look at the results, and you score it. You say, okay, how good was the result in every single case? And you can choose different scoring mechanisms. You can say, between 0 and 10, or 0 and 5, or 1 and 5, or 0 to 2 in some cases I've seen. So you can pick whatever scoring mechanism you want. But the idea is that you take all of those examples, you run them through, you look at the results, you score them, you evaluate, and then you make changes, and you do that again. So let's say you took 150 examples, you ran them, scored them, you have a baseline. Now you make a change. Let's say you're switching to another platform. Let's say you're switching from one model to another on the same platform. Let's say you're changing maybe a bit of the prompt or a bit of the business context we talked about earlier. You make a change, you run through the tests, and you compare, and you do it religiously, and you just make minor adjustments, and you keep testing and testing. And what you see here is improvement over time. The graph actually you're seeing on the right is from one of our internal tests. So we use embedding algorithms that help us do our searches and inside the platform. There's a lot of detail there, but the point that this graph makes is that we started at that dotted blue line. Okay, that was the level of quality of that specific component. That was the level of accuracy that it provided. And as you can see, it was kind of okay, not amazing. And then what we did is we kept changing things. So here we changed the embed algorithms, and we played around with them. We tried different vendors, different algorithms within those vendors, and we wanted to see how it gets better over time or doesn't. Using data to improve data analytics. Yep, exactly, Mitchell. And so that's the way to go about it. Now, you will need some platform for automating your evals. And there are platforms for that. There are, just Google. There are a couple of platforms I looked at, but just Google that and look for evals for AI. There are ways to do it with platforms. If you don't want to do it with platforms, you can write your own Python code to do it. But really, do that, run the evals, make changes, compare. And, if you see the graph getting better, great. If you don't. Also, do the evals on a periodic basis, because even if you've decided on a specific model, the models do change. So let's say you picked 04, let's say, right? 4.0, sorry, from OpenAI. 4.0 actually has versions. And so if you test it and you got certain results today, it could be that tomorrow they'll make a minor change to the model that will change the quality of your results. And so keep running it every single week, see how things are changing, make improvements over time. So that's that first part around evaluation within accuracy. The other part is create or leverage a semantic layer to drive accuracy. So there are solutions out there to build semantic layers, either automatically or manually, or you can build your own. But basically the idea with a semantic layer is you are explaining to the AI how to use the data. If you remember, I talked earlier about documenting your data assets. So documenting every single table, every single column, example queries. If you remember, I mentioned those. The deeper you make it, the clearer you make it, the easier it is for the AI to actually be accurate in the queries that it generates. The typical way to document things in a semantic layer fashion is using a YAML file. YAML is a very simple format. You can do anything you want with it, really. But if you decide to document your assets semantically, so explain, what are the different concepts that we have? This is what customer means. This is what partner means. This is what supplier means. And these are the tables that are used for customer, et cetera. So if you decide to sit down and document it, YAML is a good way to go about it, because AI understands YAML pretty good. And they're pretty easy to write for us humans. So you can sit down, document all that stuff. There are formats out there that are on top of YAML that you can look at, like Snowflake has their semantic model YAMLs. dbt has their own format. You don't have to pick any of those. They're just good examples and good ways for you to kind of think about it. But sitting down and documenting it, or using an automated solution to do that, is really important. That's really, really going to help drive up accuracy. And then lastly, to extract the unstructured data to support analyses of structured data. That's really what I've been talking about earlier. Just find as many resources as you can. In our experience at Solid, one of the really good sources of information we found is actually Jira tickets. So imagine all the Jira tickets your organization has, the data engineering Jira tickets, the analytics Jira tickets. There's a mountain of information there. People conversing about, oh, we need to add this table or we need to change that column for all these different reasons. There's a mountain of organizational knowledge sitting there in those Jira tickets. Now, some organizations don't have a lot of information in their Jira ticket. It might be just a summary, no description, no comments. So there are those. And if that's your organization, then it is what it is. But if in your environment, at least some of the tickets have some good description, some comments in them, use that. The AI will benefit from that. So try to think of all kinds of creative sources of unstructured content, Jira, Slack messages, etc., that could help the AI make better decisions as it's providing its results. Okay, additional things to think about. So what are the KPIs? When you think about building a solution like this, whether it's for your own usage, whether it's for your team or a broader department, think about how you're going to measure this, right? We're data people. We're in analytics. One of the basic things is to define a KPI before we start and then measure against that KPI. So whatever are your goals with the system that you're building or using or playing around with, think about how you would measure it, ideally before you start building it, and then make sure you're measuring against that. One thing I will say is that build it and they will come does not work. So if you're building something and you're saying, okay, it's for my group, let's say 15 people in my team, in my larger group, they're going to use it. This is amazing for them. I'm building it for them. It's my pet project. It's going to be amazing. You're going to build it. They're going to go in a couple of times and then they're going to disappear and they're not going to use it anymore. That is what happens to a lot of these initiatives. The build it and they will come does not work. Why doesn't it work? Well, because your team is currently doing things in a certain way. They're using certain tools. Maybe they're using their own IDE. Maybe they're using, the browser for Snowflake and BigQuery and so forth. Whatever tool they may be using, they're using their own tools today. And if whatever you're building doesn't fit into those tools and fit into those workflows, the chances are that they won't actually use whatever that is. So if you build something or you brought something or, it's the Databricks Genie or ChatGPT based, whatever it may be, you got to think about how you fit into people's processes, into people's day-to-day, what's going to cause them to come across whatever you build and actually use it on a daily basis. Our experience, by the way, is that Slack bots work really well if the Slack bot is in a shared channel. So that's the way to do it. But really think about it. Map out their day, map out your day, and think about how this thing actually fits into that. Think about it early on. Okay. Think about how much effort you want to put into it. So I do believe that the best way to start is building something yourself using existing tools. So if you remember my slide like a few slides ago, and one of the top things I wrote there was, using Copilot or Cortex or something like that. I do believe that's the best way to start to get going. At some point, you're going to realize that this thing requires way more maintenance and expansion and care and feeding than you initially thought it would need. That's just the nature of things. And that's okay, because through that experiment, you learned a lot about what do people need? What are people using? What are your challenges on the way to accuracy? How do you test your platform? Like, you've learned all these things at this point. So now you can make a more educated decision on what is the next step. Maybe you want to build on top of what you already have, but just realize what the resources are. Maybe I need to hire someone to help me. Maybe I need an external consultant. Maybe I need more compute resources, whatever it may be. You're now going to be able to better understand what resources you need. Or maybe you'll say, okay, that was great. Now I need some other product or off-the-shelf solution that's going to help or augment here. Whatever it may be, once you've built that first version and you see people using it, you can now start thinking about, okay, what are my next steps here? How am I going to grow this? Should I grow this thing? Should I maybe bring in something else? All those questions you'll be able to answer a lot better. So if you are discussing this whole AI for analytics initiative within your organization, before you go and think about, should we bring in this product or this technology or that technology, just get started. Follow the guidelines we've been talking about here. Get going. It's pretty easy to start and just see how well it works and how it gets picked up by people and users you're building it for. Okay, so that was kind of a bit about the things to think about, the challenges, the things to deal with, and so forth. Things to remember as as the time progresses. What's next? The next few months and the next couple of years. So first of all, the models are getting much better. You probably heard this sentence already 100 times before. AI is the worst that they will ever be. So AI today is not going to get worse. It's only going to get better from where it is right now. And it gets better pretty quickly. For example, 2 years ago, the AI models were terrible at writing SQL code, really terrible. And I remember we ran experiments about a year ago. Claude seemed to be kind of doing a bit better. OpenAI was really bad still. Now, fast forward to today, we're seeing that they're actually pretty good at it. Given enough context and so forth, as we talked about, they're actually pretty good at writing SQL code. And they're only going to get better. So whatever challenges you're experiencing with them today, they will get better. You can assume that that's going to happen. And so that's going to help you. That's going to lift the entire industry. That's going to lift whatever you're building, whatever you're using, but the entire industry is going to get better because the models are getting better. Similarly, the offerings from the big platforms are getting better. I mentioned a whole bunch of them repeatedly here, but we've been seeing them develop it over the last couple of years. And you saw that the early versions of these data chatbot offerings were kind of terrible, but they started getting better and better. And now people also have a bit of know-how about how to best leverage them. And you can just assume they're going to get better because all of these, the leaders in these platforms are really focusing on delivering better and more advanced AI capabilities. And so you should assume that it's going to improve over time, and it's a good place to put your bet. Lastly here, semantic layers are becoming key. So as I mentioned, the semantics is important for the AI to be able to take a business question and translate it over to data. So semantic layers are getting a huge amount of attention these days, especially over the last couple of months, it seems. And so brush up on that, read up on that. What are semantic layers? What are the different options? How are they built? How do they work? Which ones are manually generated? Which ones are automatically generated? There's going to be a lot of advancements in this space, and that's actually going to help you with everything else we talked about. And so really the bottom line of all of this is that 2 years ago, AI for analytics seemed cool, but not attainable. And now we can actually feel like it's getting closer. It's within reach. And we can actually start experiencing the promise of AI for analytics. And maybe one day, maybe next year, maybe in 3 years, nobody's going to come to you and say, can you just pull the data for me, please? So with that,
perfect segue, actually. I was just about to say, Sai had a question in the chat, kind of what would be the future? And I know you touched on this, and I know it's, probably a little bit difficult to understand where it may be heading because things are changing and there's so many kind of unknowns with all of this. But he just shared that his personal experience with kind of any AI tool has been that even with, a big context space, it helps him kind of speed through the process for simple queries, kind of ad hoc. But with the complex queries, it's still really lacking. So if you can maybe touch on that a little bit, just kind of your own maybe personal perspective, because I know it's, some of that's just kind of unknown too.
Yeah. So definitely. So first of all, what we're seeing is that it's a lot easier for AI to handle queries that do not involve any joins, and the table is generally denormalized. So we've been building databases for years, knowing that we need to normalize the data. You're going to have your dims, you're going to have your facts. Like that's how we're all building. But the challenge with that is that it requires joins. And sometimes you'll have 4 or 5 joins, some of them left outer joins, some of them inner joins, but you're going to have complicated queries. AI is still struggling with that. And so what we've seen work is keep it simple. One table, denormalized, build queries around that, and with everything else we talked about, business context, etc., AI can handle that a bit better. If you start including multiple tables here, that's kind of where it starts getting lost today. So start you got to start simple, but the good thing is that over time it's going to get much better.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions coming through right now, but we'll give it a few minutes. If anybody wants to ask any questions for Yoni while we have him, please feel free to drop a comment in there, and we'll see it pop up and address it here for you.
Yeah, by the way, if you'd like, you can drop my email here, or in the comments there. I'm very, very happy to help. Um, with any questions you have, or experience, or how do we do this, or what's our experience with that. I really believe that the entire industry is in a pivotal moment, and we could all help each other. We're all learning new things all the time, and helping each other is a good way to go about it. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely, and well said. I mean, there's just so many advances happening, and having this be collaborative is definitely the right approach.
It's an exciting time, really.
Very much so. Well, I do not see anything else coming through. Of course, first of all, Yoni, thanks so much for your time today. I know you're busy, as you mentioned, you're traveling too, so I appreciate you hopping on and sharing the learnings and the journey that Solid's been going on. It's been really really insightful. I really appreciate everybody out there attending. Thank you for making this happen. We actually had quite a few people hop on, so that's amazing. Thank you all. And then the recording will be available on LinkedIn, of course. I think that they do a good job of making the recording available for some time. I'm not sure how long, but we will have it available on YouTube in its entirety. And then we'll also have it, kind of chopped up in various clips and within the datagoats.org community. So please come join us there. If you missed part of it, you want to share it with a friend. That is all. That is all amazing stuff. And then Yoni, we shared his contact information. Sai actually did just ask, is there a way to try out Solid? So maybe you can give a brief plug on that too.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, there's in that email, it says getsolid.ai. So you can go to our website, get a bit of information about us there. There's a contact us form, fill it out. We get back to people really quickly. So yes, there's 100%, there's a way to, you're welcome, Piyush, and Austin. So, yeah, very easy to get set up and to get going on Solid. We will work with you. We'll take you through a demo and so forth. So just go to getsolid.ai, and go to the contact us form over there. Yeah, that's the easiest way to go, Sai. And yeah, Zach, thank you for having me. I see all these people. It's kind of, as you're talking, you don't see the people, but then you start seeing them here at the end. So I'm really happy that I could help, and appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah, and thank you again, everybody that was able to attend live. But and thank you to anybody that watches after this too. That's fantastic. So and of course anybody can reach out to me as well. Easiest way to get me is on LinkedIn, but of course over at datagoats.org too, you can get me there. And so thank you everybody for the time, and thank you again, Yoni. And we'll talk to you all soon. See you at the next event.
See ya. Have a good day.
Bye.